Close to 100 SABC employees embarked on a lunchtime picket at the public broadcaster's Auckland Park headquarters today. They protested against the SABC's restructuring plans, which could see 400 permanent staff members retrenched. The public broadcaster began issuing redundancy letters last Friday. A call to save the public broadcaster and save the jobs of those who keep the ship afloat. Employees serve to inform, educate and entertain the nation, but this is being threatened by looming retrenchments, and staff has refused to take this line down. The public broadcaster is expected to appear before Parliament's Portfolio Committee come Wednesday.
We are here today to say that as the SABC, we can't be a responsible company that is contributing towards unemployment, towards hunger, towards parents not being able to pay for the school fees, for the university fees of their children.
We understood the situation that was prevailing, and the intention was to support the new management so that they can find a way to turn the situation around. Therefore, the workers have already compromised and they are willing to compromise further. But I think the process of engagement wasn't transparent but also justifiable. And it is for that reason we came out as ordinary workers, taking our own 1 hour lunchtime just to say, guys, let's go back to the discussion table and let's talk, let's resolve this.
For more on the story, we're joined via Zoom by Communication Workers Union General Secretary Aubrey Tshabalala, right here in the SABC. Aubrey, welcome to SA Today. Let's look at today's picket from those employees of the SABC. We heard from senior members of the SABC there, Donald and Janji Chowk, apologies, as well as Meso Fimkwena. You've indicated that you were in consultation with lawyers with regards to the retrenchments at the SABC. How far is that process, and what is the mood within the employees of the SABC following that picket held at lunchtime today?
Well, good afternoon to you and viewers at home. Thanks for that question. We are at a very sensitive stage now. We ought to fight the SABC management on the approach that they've already shown us in terms of forging ahead with the retrenchment, despite all the facts that we have to give the alternatives. But also we are very worried about the nature of the public broadcaster, because if you look at their new corporate plan or their new strategy, it will take away the in-house content, which in the near future SABC will be nothing else but a private or commercialized broadcaster. So our fight against retrenchment is a very broad fight. It's against neoliberalism. It's against the cutting of workers and creating what we call artificial profit, because there's no indication that SABC management will take SABC to safer shores through these plans. But what we are seeing now is to try to cut cost where it's not necessary. I'm saying it's not necessary because if you look at the cost of workers in terms of the salary bill, it counts at that of a cost of the in-house content, which they will be forced to buy it after they've retrenched workers. And of course, it also defeats the purpose of the unmandated or the unpaid mandate of the public broadcaster, where they will have to broadcast things that are not necessarily commercial viable. And when you do that, you'll have completely eroded the platform of the public broadcaster that has to play in the society.
Aubrey, we've heard time and time again SABC or unions and unions who represent workers saying the argument from the SABC saying the wage bill is too high is false. They should not be cutting or letting go of workers. In fact, there's always there's a different way they can skin this cat, and they should start within the upper floors of the radio park building and cut from there. The SABC has come back and said, look, we have to minimize the wage bill, and these are non-negotiable. Let me rephrase that. These are going to happen, that of course being the retrenchments, as they have to find a way to balance the wage bill. What's your take on that?
Well, the first point is you have Section 189, which says that the parties must engage in discussion in trying to either avoid retrenchment or to minimize the impact. So in that discussion, that's where the rationale of retrenchment is presented. And that's where labor has to come in, giving alternatives to that. SABC has been shifting the goalpost, has moved from one corporate plan to another. We'll know that the first initial plan was to say they want 3,050 workers in 2020, 2021. And because of natural attritions, we have just below 3,000 workers, meaning there's no need for retrenchment if they were genuine about cutting off the salary bill. Now they shift the goalpost. They then cut some of the very fundamental roles at SABC, particularly in news and in the production line, where we'll be losing some of the key component. And once we lose that, you might cut the salary bill, but you are not saving SABC from cost because you'll have to go out and in-source the content. That's one point. But SABC has not even looked broadly to their expenditure. Now, if you look at the money that is spent on the service providers by SABC management currently, you'll realize that SABC is not working as a company that is on a financial tight stream. So there's a lot of wasteful expenditures that we have arise to. If you have looked at the board fees that are claimed by the likes of the chairperson of the board and so forth, you will realize that these are the people not going into SABC to assist the public, but is to really feed their own pockets and to enrich themselves. Yeah. So their corporate plan vis-a-vis what they are saying in terms of a PR exercise contradicts. And we have further said that on the positions that they've created in the new structure, we wanted to know how much each position will cost. Wouldn't that reverse the very same objectives that they are trying to gain? Yeah. So our view is that the whole process will deepen the crisis at SABC, does not create new revenue streams, does not take SABC out of troubled waters, but it deepens it, and they could create sharp contradictions in what they are saying.
Aubrey, we're running out of time, but I'm going to ask you this question. The core business, notwithstanding educating, entertaining, the core business of the SABC is obviously news. We've seen most of the senior journalists, as we saw in those interviews before you came on, coming out there and saying, you know, they feel as if, you know, the SABC is going to lose what it really is there for, which is the news factor in particular, because they're saying a couple of hundred people, or I think, will be leaving the newsroom. As a union who works closely with these people within the newsroom, how does that sit with you?
Well, it's a very important point that we are raising, noting that over 21 million people in South Africa rely on SABC radio and TV for news and to be guided about what is happening around the nation. And that is also part of education. Even when people go to their polls and vote for their political parties, they rely on SABC to guide them in terms of the news so that they can make an informed decision. So when you collapse that, you're clearly not having an interest of the nation, but more so, our workers, particularly in the newsroom, they have to be worried. Not because they are worried about their own jobs per se, but they are worried about the route that SABC is taking, because you can see that other languages are also being oppressed. We'll take, for example, amongst others, in the Tsonga news, they have removed people that are going to, we don't even have a journalist that deals with Tsonga. And even when you have the likes of the State of Nation address, when there were issues around the COVID-19, so it means that the people that only speak Tsonga are largely disadvantaged because of those shortfalls. So it's very important point that they are raising, and we need to fight and defend that point. They are 100% correct, the journalists at the newsroom.
Yeah, the SABC has began issuing communiques saying that they'll begin issuing redundancy letters. Have any of your union members received that, and where do you take it from there?
Yes, we've received that since this morning, and we have issued a communique to our members and, of course, non-union members to send those letters, because as we speak now, since this morning, we've been drafting letters and making preparations to a court. So those letters will be very critical in preparing of our court case against SABC.
Do you have a number on how many have received, or how many you can expect to receive?
At this point in time, I cannot confirm, because as you have seen, I was outside with workers. So that has been forwarded to the legal department of CWU and DEMAO.
Aubrey Tshabalala, CWU, thank you very much indeed for joining us, sir.